This episode of Walt Disney World Today is being sponsored by All Star Vacation Homes. And picture this. You're coming down with a group of 11 people, and you realize 11 people probably isn't going to fit well into a Pop Century standard view room. So you decide, well, where can I stay, and where am I not going to pay a lot of money for that? And really, a vacation from All Star Vacation Home makes a lot of sense because of the huge space you get, all the different types of houses you can get, and for the price. It's a great opportunity. Give them a try. Visit them at www.allstarvacationhomes.com.
This is Walt Disney World Today. Give us 5 minutes and we'll give you the world.
I'm Matt Hochberg of StudioCentral.com, and joining me on today's show is John Phelan, who's the show director here at Disney's Hollywood Studios. Welcome to the show, John.
Oh, thank you. Glad to be here.
Great to have you here. And we're talking today with John about an upcoming event that's near and dear to my heart. I know a lot of our listeners are very interested in it, and that's, of course, the Osborne Family Spectacle of Dancing Lights, an annual tradition that at Disney's Hollywood Studios that's been going on since the late
1995. 1995 was our first year.
That's right. And it's a great event, John, because there's a lot of stuff that goes on at Walt Disney World during the holidays. You've got, obviously, Mickey's Very Merry Christmas Party. You've got all the stuff that's going on in Epcot. But truth be told, I think my favorite event has to be the Osborne Lights. I'm a little biased, but the Osborne Lights are my favorite because of what really, I mean, the word spectacle is in there for a reason, and I think it's for good reason, because it's such an awe-inspiring sight. To you, John, what makes the event such an interesting and exciting event year after year?
Well, as you say, it's kind of overwhelming. We have so many lights, and I think there's a couple of things. I think it's the fact that it's connected to kind of Americana story of a guy that just kind of went crazy and put up so many Christmas lights that his neighbors couldn't take it anymore, and he had to turn off his display. When Jennings Osborne turned off his display, he had 3.5 million lights.
Wow.
You know, the twirling carousels and a giant globe and the angels, and we brought it all here, and then we've just expanded it to over 5 million lights.
Wow. But,
you know, I always tell the story of the very first time I experienced the lights myself on a Wednesday before Thanksgiving when we first turned on the lights. And we're walking down the street, and we're underneath the red canopy that we still have on Brownstone Street at the lights. And I'm behind a family, and a mother stops and looks at her 12-year-old son. He was about 12 years old. She just stopped dead in her tracks. The Christmas music is playing. She's underneath the canopy looking through to millions of other lights. And she turned to him and said, "Merry Christmas." Now, that's not such a big thing, but it was the tone of her voice. And I knew it was the first Merry Christmas of the season for her. And it was just that she was suddenly overwhelmed with the spirit of the season. And that's
Absolutely.
what the display is all about. It just makes you feel like you're totally immersed into the holiday season. For me, that's what it is, with the music and the snow and just the incredible amount of lights and really how beautiful it is. I mean, it's just overwhelmingly beautiful. I agree with you. I think it's the best thing we have.
Absolutely. I mean, I think what it is you obviously have the lights, and I think people have seen lights, large displays. I mean, now it's caught on in many cities. But the difference is you walk in, you see the lights, and it's very nice by itself. It's been a big draw for years. But the addition of the dancing lights, which came a couple of years ago now, that's key, because I think many guests don't see it coming at all, and then it's like, whoa. When the first song hits, you know, and they see it, and the light, they really do dance, and they go crazy like that. Talk a little bit about the dancing lights. Tell us about who did you come up with the idea, who came up with the idea, and how you implement, how difficult was it? It goes off flawlessly every night, but I'm sure it's not exactly like, you know, opening up Word documents or something.
Well, different people, obviously, the technology to synchronize lights to music was already there. The challenge for us was taking these 5 million lights, and the one thing I don't know if everybody realizes, every strand of light that you see on this street is no more than 100 lights in a strand. It's just like the lights that you buy in the store and put on your own tree or house.
Right.
So you have all these millions of lights, and you have to come up with a system that you can individually circuit all these buildings, and then each building is broken down into 36 additional circuits. And when we sat around with our technical people and said, hey, is there any way we can make this dance? They thought of the traditional way with lighting dimmers.
Right.
But one of our technical people found a step relay. And I'm not a real technical guy, but this was a step relay that didn't just go 25%, 50%, 100%. This could go from 1 to 100. in
wow.
increments. So this is almost like a proprietary design that we have. We have over 1,400 of these circuit relays all throughout the street here, which our then Lightboard computer talks to. And we have a wonderful programmer, a woman by the name of Susan Rose, that comes out and sits out in the middle of the street for about 3 weeks, listening to the music and programming each individual building and
Wow.
each one of the 36 circuits that's on each individual building. It's a painstaking process, but the final result is really spectacular. It's truly great.
Oh, absolutely. And what you mentioned painstaking, because this isn't easy to do. This isn't like putting up your Christmas lights at home where it's a couple strands, some light, some candles in the window, done. All before dinner, of course. Here it's a little bit more involved, to say the least. I know that in a recent article last year you did an interview and you talked about some of the intricacies of putting up the Osborne lights. One of them was that every single night you have a team that goes around and looks for dead lights. That blew my mind because there's a lot of lights to look around for. Like, gee, is that one dead or. Can you talk a little bit about that kind of level of attention and detail that Disney puts towards these lights in terms of making the event function every single night the way it should be?
Well, there's a crew of 25 technicians that spend 15 weeks out here at night putting up all these lights. And, I always have to pay tribute to the technicians because I always say to them, if you can think of something crazy or fun that you want to do, go ahead. We'll look at it and do it. They take painstaking care in terms of the outline of the buildings, the windows, the doors, all the molding and all that sort of stuff. They take great care. And if you really look at the installation, it's very, very clean, which is really terrific. And then during the course of the run, of course, every night they're out here. There's a crew that's out here, 6 to 8 people. And at the end of the night, after all our guests leave, they come and inspect the buildings. And if there's a strand that goes out, they bring out the high reaches, go up there, and switch it out. Because of the fact that we have so many guests and they're very close to the lights, we have a lot of safety, ground fault interrupters, GFIs, all this sort of stuff. The weather also plays havoc with us sometimes, although we're getting better and better at maintaining that and keeping our lights together. Actually, this year, one of our technicians came up with a great way to make sure the weather doesn't affect us as much. So they're constantly trying to reset breakers. As soon as something goes out, they're jumping right on it, and they're here every night.
Well, you've piqued my interest. How are you guys, what's this breakthrough? Or is this a Disney trade secret?
No, a lot of it has to do with making sure that the lights and any of the a cable, we have a lot of electrical cable. There's over 35 miles of electrical cable strung all throughout the street to power all of this. Of course, behind all the buildings are catwalks that are metal. So a lot of the stuff, from what I understand, was that our lights were touching the metal, and when it gets wet, then they would short out, or it would get grounded, and then they would fall. So now they've learned to tie everything up and do insulation between the lights and the catwalk and the metal catwalk and the steel structure of the building. Also, this shrink wrap type stuff that you can put around connectors so that water doesn't get inside. It's kind of like a plastic wrap that goes around. But the challenge there is that, as I said, each one of these lights is only 100 lights. Each strand of light is only, so you got a lot of connectors you got to do that to. But they're taking the time, and we were out here the other night doing a test, and it had been a night where it had rained, and maybe about 5% of the lights went out, whereas last year we would have lost probably 25 to 30 to 40% of the lights. So hopefully, we're hoping that on a bad weather night, we're not going to have to turn off the display, because we will turn it off if it gets, if the quality of it deteriorates to the point that, it's not worth the value of what the show should be.
Absolutely. One of the great things about Osborne lights, again, it's not just lights. It's not you guys just put strands after strand after strand, and it's just, there it goes, it blinks at you. There's a real attention to detail here. You have a lot of interesting displays. I know that on the side streets over here, you have my favorite is the barbecue grill that has the grills in there. My wife loves in one of those street windows, there's, I guess it's like a home, if you want to call it that. And in there's a TV on that plays the ABC Family, 25 Days of Christmas or whatever promo. And it doesn't seem, it seems insignificant, but it actually feels like there's actually someone there. You're actually on a real street, which is really interesting. Talk a little bit about these level of details that you go into the lights.
I have to pay tribute to Jennings Osborne on that, because a lot of the initial things that we do, like the bicycles that you see or the tire swing that you see, all that type of stuff, he would do that in his own house, in his yard. Anything that wasn't nailed down, he put lights on. So that's what I say. You know, we get together with the crew and we kind of encourage everybody to kind of think of fun things to do. I love our snowman that we put into the phone booth.
Oh, yeah.
It's a light up snowman, and it looks like he's on the telephone in the phone booth. Other things that we do, for example, as some of our guests may already know, when we brought the lights originally down from Arkansas, they came down in 4 big moving van type trucks that dropped them off. And one of the items that was on the truck happened to be this cat. It was it's about 3 feet wide, maybe 4 feet tall. It's an outline of a cat in purple. And we're like, what is this? This has nothing to do with Christmas. And I called up Jennings and I said, we have this cat. And he goes, oh, that was from my Halloween display that I done one year. But now it has become a tradition. Yep. We put it in a display every year, but we move it to a different location. So guests who are really in the know will come here, and they know that part of the adventure is to find out where the cat is this year.
That's great.
So every year we move it. And the other thing that we've really gotten into is doing hidden Mickeys. We have hidden Mickeys all throughout the display. So we always challenge our guests to see how many they can find, and there's usually somewhere in the neighborhood of 25 to 35 hidden Mickeys. And we're always challenging the technicians to come up with new ways of doing. Like one of the great hidden Mickeys, I think most guests know this now, is in the smokestack of the big train, the Mickey train that we have, which was an actual piece from the Osborne display. If you look at the smoke as it kind of blinks through, at one moment in the smoke is an outline of a Mickey head.
That's great.
So, you know, that type of stuff. Having fun. And, you know, other things that we do, like the fire escapes, trying to really give a theme to them, that they're different people who like different things. There's a fisherman living in this. There's a ballet dancer living in this apartment. And they decorate their balconies according to their own tastes and stuff, which is a lot of fun.
Absolutely. Let's take a little bit step back here from the present and go back to, you know, the Osborne lights, as you mentioned, started in 1995. And that was back on Residential Street. And a lot of people loved having lights on Residential Street. Obviously, what happened, for those who don't know, is with the advent of Lights Motors Action, they needed the space, and Residential Street was unfortunately removed, and the lights moved to New York Street, which is now Streets of America. But talk a little bit about that time, because seeing the lights on Residential Street was a lot different than it is on Streets of America. I like what it's become over here, but there's still a lot of people that are nostalgic for the old Osborne lights on Residential Street. Talk a little bit about your memories of the lights on Residential Street.
Well, as I of course remember back to the first year, we spent 15 weeks putting the lights up. Now, when the very first year we did it on Residential Street, the lights didn't arrive here until November 4th, and we had to have them open by the Wednesday before Thanksgiving. And so we probably had a crew of 40 technicians then working on 24-hour shifts, round the clock. I was here on the street probably for a good 16 to 18 hours every day as we were putting up all these lights. The great thing about Residential Street was that each house had its own style, its own architectural style, but also you could really try to make that feel like individual houses and that people lived in. And actually, when we were first doing this, Jennings came down and we walked the street together with our technical director, and he kind of pointed out what colors he thought would be on each house, and we made one house all red, which is what he always did with his house. We picked out a house that was his mother's house, which is always done in white, which he did up in Arkansas. And, you know, that long canopy that we would try to do on Residential Street, it really kind of gave a whole different feel to what it is now. And it like I say, it really was beautiful. I do remember that first year when the lights turned on and the guests had actually such a great reaction to it. We were all kind of amazed. We had no idea. We were exhausted, but it truly was great. You know, but what it has, as you say, what it's evolved, and, you know, Residential Street is gone. There's nothing we really can do about it. And we really debated about whether to move it out to the streets of New York and the streets of America, because we weren't sure it was going to work. And I remember we did a test one night where we had the crew come out and just do one building, just to see what it would look like. And when they turned the lights on, just doing that one building, and they had gone into the detail around the windows and the molding in three different colors, molding, windows, and then the main part of the building, and it just looked fantastic. It looked great. And we were saying the lights left Arkansas. It got too big for Little Rock, moved to the residential street, and it got too big for residential street. The last place to go was the big city, so we moved it to, New York.
I like that. So with it being 2008, the lights this year are going to be happening November 28th, 2008 through January 4th, 2009. Is there anything, you mentioned, every year changes, which is nice. Like you move the cat, you add a little more details. It's not static. Tell us a little bit about what we can expect to find this year in the Osborne's.
Well, a lot of the colors have changed this year, so I think you'll see. The other thing that we definitely have gone to, and it was really terrific, is LED lights, LED Christmas lights. A lot of people are moving to LED. We're trying to move the display towards being 100% LED because, for a number of reasons, LED takes 1/10 the amount of power to run, and it's responsible, we're turning the display green, so to speak, and all that sort of stuff. Plus, those colors can really pop. They're really just spectacular. I think one of the great things that we did last year was the big 70-foot tree. We did a tree within a tree, so that'll be back this year. We're actually, just this morning, I was with our music department. We're working on a new song that we're going to dance the lights to.
Wow.
So this will be our 5th song that we choreographed the lights to this year, so you got to come out and see that because I think it's going to be quite fun. I'm very excited about it. And, there's always something different, always something new. Little things. Lots of times it's the little things that you're going to see.
Well, John, it's a fantastic show. I encourage all of our listeners to definitely come out and check it out this year. Don't waste your time at Epcot. It's overrated. It's the same thing every year.
Epcot is beautiful. You can go there, the day after you come here.
Don't listen to John. He doesn't know what he's talking about. No, it's a great show, John, and thanks so much for talking with us about it. Definitely look forward to it. Thanks for being on the show with us.
My pleasure, Matt.
And don't forget that this episode of Walt Disney World Today has been sponsored by All-Star Vacation Homes. And if you're planning a trip to Walt Disney World and you need a little extra space and want to get a lot of amenities in that room, get a good value for it, be sure to check out our partners at All-Star Vacation Homes, the official vacation home provider of WDW Today. Visit them online at www.allstarvacationhomes.com. And if you want to find our older episodes, read our show notes, or send us your comments, visit the WDW Today homepage at www.wdwtoday.com. For Len Testa, Mike Newell, Mike Scopa, the fabulous Annette Owens, I'm Matt Hochberg. We'll see you on the next show.
This has been a production of Mouse World Radio.